Hey, Kate, do you remember the wolf from Pulp Fiction?
Yes, of course. How could I not? I think he's your favorite person to talk about who's a fictional project manager. Like you have reveled in, like, I'm the wolf. Like Kim walks around like, have you seen Pulp Fiction? Because I'm the wolf. That's how Kim walks around.
Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour. Our aim is to share frank and honest discussion about real-world issues in project management, but do it in a way that's not too dry, though it might get a bit salty sometimes. Top Shelf Replay: How to be the Wolf, taking over broken projects.
Welcome to Top Shelf Replay. It's time for us to revisit an episode so good that it deserved to be talked about twice. We've been doing this podcast for 8 years, and we reference our earlier episodes all the time. This episode originally aired on January 7th, 2019, over 6 years ago at this point, and it's still one of our favorites.
Yeah, this episode is solid gold. I reference it in my coaching all the time. I reference it in different speaking opportunities and in classes. There's just so many good things in this episode.
PMI Global actually asked us to present this topic at the summit in November. Huzzah!
Yay!
And I'm really excited about that. One of the things I noticed, Kim, as I was listening to this episode before we recorded this again, because my brain doesn't remember things from 6 years ago because nothing crazy happened between then and now.
The before 4 times, yeah.
The before 4 times. But one of the things I noticed is how many great scripts there are in this episode. There is so many examples of how to talk to executives, to stressed out team members. I talked a lot, and I gave a lot of examples about how to talk in these situations.
Yeah, there's a lot of those great little sound bites that if you've got those, you can reference them. They can really help you phrase and manage these really crucial conversations that we reference.
I'm excited to get into it. We'll play this episode for you as it originally aired. And at the end of the original episode, we'll come back with how things have changed since then. Kim has taken a look at the formula for how to be the wolf and boil it down to a simple, easy way to remember it for all your future stressed out takeover project management time. And I'm excited for you to hear it. So with that, let's get into the episode.
If you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, there's a character in there where there's an incident that happens. There's blood and brains everywhere. It's kind of a mess. They don't know what to do, so they call in the cleaner. They call in the wolf, and he shows up in a tuxedo, calm, takes care of everything. He's to the point. He's like, here's what we're going to do. Boom, boom, boom. Gets everybody taken care of, takes care of his stakeholders, gets it all cleaned up, all sorted out, and then he's off on his way, which, to my mind, that's a good project manager, even without the blood and the brains.
I agree.
But what I like about him is he's very applicable to the project management. It seems like a lot of project managers do kind of go through that similar phase in their careers when their organization has so much confidence in their ability that they get sent into really bad situations to straighten them out. They're sent in as sort of the fixer to help right a broken project or a big problem.
Ooh, yeah. That's we've all been there. Or if you haven't been there yet, you will be. That's what happens. You get good at project management and they're like, okay, well, you've done really well here. So over here is messy and screwed. So if we put the good person on the screwed project, everything will be fine. That's their thought process. That's how they think about it. So if it feels like you're being given all of the crap jobs, it's crap. But it does mean that you're getting those jobs because they trust you so much to deliver. It's like a bittersweet milestone in your PM career. You're like, I'm getting that. Oh my God, I hate this.
Yes. And so what we want to do today is to talk about how to be that fixer. When you're given a broken project, a screwed up situation, how do you handle it?
It can be super scary the first time that this happens to you because it can just be overwhelming. Like, oh, I have to fix it all. But Kim and I have done this so many times now. We have it down. We know what to do. There was a listener who asked for this episode. I think it was Lana, on our members Q&A. And today we're going to talk through how we handle this. And this is like, we didn't even need to write a script. We just know what to do. It's going to be a good episode.
Well, big shout out to Lana. I got to meet Lana when we had our happy hour in London. It was really good.
That's awesome. It sounds like you had a great time.
It was fantastic. It was a really good happy hour. Had some great members come in and some non-members come and mix up some listeners. And then we had one in Scottsdale the following week, which is also really, really good. Had some great member activity coming, chatting up, and it was pretty good.
Excellent. So hands down, the problem, anytime they're like, Kate, go fix this project. Anytime. The problem is always ambiguity. Every time. It's always ambiguity. What you have to do is figure out where it is. That's your job. So we'll go over like our methodology to get that. But off the top of our heads, here's some types of ambiguity we've dealt with in the past. Coming in probably at number 1 is unclear project requirements.
Number 1.
Yeah. Like, oh, well, he said he wanted it blue and that it was going to be a bed for a kid. And that's what it was. And I delivered that. And then they were like, we asked you for a pool for a family. And you're like, how did you get that mixed up? But unclear project requirements said, build my child's favorite plaything. And that was misunderstood. Right? So unclear project requirements, hands down, number 1 always.
Yeah. Another good one, which shoots right back to the episode we just did, are unclear sign-off criteria. There's no definition of done, or the milepost keeps moving. So not having a clear agreement on what done is or completion of the project, what that sign-off is, it can really hurt your ability to get it done.
Yeah. Another thing I've seen is poor communication between stakeholder groups. And this can like translate back to ambiguous project requirements or sign-off criteria, but that can be like, well, they were super clear to one team and they were not clear to another. But, the team that thinks they're clear is like, well, I don't want to go talk to finance. They're a pain. I hate them. It's like, well, this is what we're doing the project for. And if they're not going to sign off on it, we got to talk to them. So bad communication between stakeholder groups, another easy place to identify what could be holding a project back.
Right. And you can extend it. It's not just stakeholders, the way we think of as project customers. It can be between the customer and the supplier, or between supplier management and customer management, and the people on the ground maybe know what's going on. It's when all those parties are not aligned, that's when things can go so wrong. Another big source of this is when a project problem has been very poorly communicated. It can even be hidden or ignored because it's an inconvenient truth. And those kinds of things, they only fester and they only get worse.
And sometimes you run into like the team that's been like, we've been saying that it won't work, right?
Yeah.
But we've done, stage direction to the boardroom, stupid executive asks, code red, right? Like executives don't speak or senior managers don't speak. It won't work. Oh, like that's what they hear whenever you say that, no matter how clearly you've said that, right? So if you can't communicate this to them in terms of ROI or some other type of value they're trying to realize from this project, then they don't really care about why there's a problem. You have to have your stakeholders and your decision makers understand the impacts of what's going on, and easily, tech people who can't talk to business people, customer support folks who can't talk to developers, like that can easily be a reason why things are stalled.
Yep. Well, another one that we can't miss is just plain out mismanagement and poor management, not keeping on top of things, not managing expectations, just not staying on top of things in any way, shape, or form. There's so many ways that if you're not on top of your game, managing your project, it can go way, way wrong.
So how do you identify these things? Follow this methodology.
Before we go there, I got to say, I really like, so you wrote this part on ambiguity, and I really like it. I had never really thought of it that way, but it's really true. When you start asking questions and try to figure out what's going on, people will have an answer for this, an answer for this, but you're onto something. When you start asking questions and people say, well, and you're like, there's the problem.
Yeah, it is always ambiguity. You just have to figure out where it is. It's everything we just talked about, but it's always that something is unclear to someone for some dumb reason. And ultimately, after you go through this, undoing that dumb reason is really the painful part that takes a lot of work. But it's probably something stupid and dumb that got you here. But because opinions have been lodged on both sides and you're already dragging down the budget and or timeline and or there's some sort of actual loss realized by this, like then it makes emotions high. We're stepping into crucial conversations territory. I mean, it's like, to fix it, it would be easy if no one was upset. But you're not brought in until people are upset. So, hooray.
Absolutely. All right. So getting on to the base. So the first thing you want to do is cover the basics of figuring out what is going on. So the first of the basics we talk about on, I think, at least every other podcast, which is our first 5 questions, the first 5 episodes that we had. If you haven't listened to those 5 episodes, go back and check them out. In summary, they are, do you know what your success criteria and who has to accept that you have met that success criteria? What is the scope and what are the expected benefits of that scope? And what is the problem or opportunity that scope is supposed to solve? What is the budget and what is the value that is expected in return for that investment? What is the schedule and what are the key drivers behind that schedule? And finally, what are the risks that this project is facing? Where can this thing go off the rails? And how can you keep it from going off the rails? Or why didn't they keep it, in this case, from going off the rails? So the first 5 questions should be your first stop.
Definitely. On those first 5, I would really narrow in on who's in charge and really trying to figure out that success criteria sign off, right? So, but when you ask those questions, maybe you will discover who really is in charge, right? Like maybe through asking these questions, people say, oh, well, I'm the sponsor, blah, 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 blah. And then you talk more and somebody else says, yeah, but we don't do anything unless Allison says that it's good. And it's like, okay, who's Allison? She's this tenured person who knows the process better than anybody and nothing gets done unless she says yes. Okay. who do we really think is in charge here? Right. So it's either, and it will be up to you to figure out, we'll talk about this more later, but if that person is truly in charge or if they're just acting as they're just blockading, right? They're doing something to mess this up, but paying attention to those stakeholders and figuring out who is upset and who is in charge and who may be in the way, that'll be a key part of those first 5 questions.
And, in addition to using that to understand what's going on right now and who's going on right now, you also have to turn that inwardly on how you yourself are presenting yourself and how you're interacting with the team through this process. And the word I really like for this is gravitas.
You love that word.
Isn't that a great word? Gravitas. I do like that word. You need to demonstrate that you can take the situation seriously and that you can be taken seriously. And you need to be sort of the calm center of the storm, because that's really what they need. When people are really pissed off, everything's gone off the rails. They need someone to be calm and tell them it's going to be okay, or it's not going to be okay, but here's how we're going to handle with it. And to be calm and really kind of take control.
Yeah. In that role, you definitely want to say things. You're trying to set the tone for how things are going to go forward now that you're here, right? So whatever happened before is in the past. And now that you're here, like if somebody, is throwing somebody under the bus in a meeting or is just blaming everybody else, it's your job to say, I understand that there's a lot that brought us to this point. Good general vague sentence. There's a lot that brought us to this point. A lot of work went into getting us here today, but we're here to work this problem, right? Today, what we're reviewing is the status of the project as we understand it to assure we're on the same page. Or today, I'm just looking to understand your role in the project so far. And I'm truly just interested to get to know you, right? Like we're not here to be part of the mess that's brought us here. Like that's what you're selling yourself whenever that happens. You're focused on, I'm just here to learn what's going on and then focus on how we can, realize the value this project is seeking to realize for our company, our customer, whoever.
Right. And one final comment on gravitas and how you handled yourself is that what's interesting is that when you come into a situation like that and you're expected to help sort things out, people will mirror your behavior to some extent. So if you walk in and they're shouting and they're screaming, if you mirror their behavior, you're only going to escalate the situation. But as angry as they may be, if you maintain calm, they're going to start to bring their temperature down eventually.
I also think it's important to talk about the mindset you should have as you do this. We've already started to touch on it with gravitas, but I think an important thing to do whenever you're asking these questions is to constantly clarify and remove your assumptions. I have spent basically the past 3 years of my day job doing M&A integration work. And like, there's a way that things run at my company and they don't run that way at the I just came from playing Overwatch at the enemy company. It's not, don't use those words. They don't come from the new company that we've acquired. They don't work that way, right? And I built a system to remove assumptions from the way that we approached integration, because we need to continuously keep clarifying to assure that we are not making assumptions. And it's easy, right? Because, and like, I would just compare this to cultural differences, and I'm going to say between the US and Japan. In the US, everybody wears shoes in their house. In Japan, when somebody, or if a Japanese person born and raised there visits America and they've not done any research before arriving and they come to your house, they will probably be, one, horrified that you're wearing your dirty shoes in the house, and two, they may ask you a question like, where do you store your shoes? Like looking for a shoe locker at either school or the office. And whenever you say, oh, we've got a gym locker, and the Japanese person may expect like, oh yes, I will walk into a locker room the same as I expect in Japan. And when they walk into like a gym room, which is not what they look like, they're going to be dealing with their expectations meeting their reality. So when you look at, what's going on, just clarify. Oh, where do you store your shoes when you come inside? And they say, I don't usually store my shoes. It's like, oh, okay. Do you not store your shoes? What do you do with those? Like, you're just trying to ask a bunch of clarifying questions to make sure you really understand their perspective on what happened. And while that's happening, you pass no outward facing judgment, because you're here to just your first week is just like, figure it out. So you're just there to absorb and try to put the pieces together yourself and not look like a judgmental butt face while you're doing that.
Totally. And so when you go into these situations, you don't want to also, along with judging, you don't want to judge the people involved. Don't start disparaging the previous project manager or the stakeholders or anything like that. You need to make personal judgments internally and, use your good judgment to make sure you get things resolved, but you need to keep that internally.
Yep.
All right. So the next step is to dig deeper, especially into the documentation. And this is where you say, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
So you need to find out where the meat is and what's going on. And the first question that you should ask is, well, show me your requirements. Let me see your requirements. And very often, what's the answer you get, Kate?
So Kate wrote an email to Sarah, who's not on the project anymore, but I can find it because I was copied on it. Just give me a minute. Hold on, just give me a minute.
I think there's something on the Google Doc.
Yeah, requirements. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we have those. Oh, like I'm also like, don't give in to the excitement. Oh yeah, we have those. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to see them. And they pull up the Google Doc, and it's like, build a boat, paint the boat blue. The boat should float on water. And you're like, okay, we got a long way to go.
Or do you start getting qualification? Well, here's the documents, but, we changed a few things and, we took some out. There are other things we put in. Yeah. So really making sure that you get an understanding of, are there set requirements? Are they, in a good state? Oftentimes they probably aren't, but you'll need to understand where that is, because that'll be something you'll probably have to sort through and fix.
Another good piece of documentation, a raid log. Of course we were going to say that, nerds. Of course, because we love it. I imagine you'll get the same answer about a raid log. Like, oh, I'm keeping R&D, but I'm not keeping A and I. You know what I mean? Like they'll have some portion of it. Or we started that, but then we just got so busy that we haven't revisited it. Also, so-and-so never attends the weekly meetings. So like, what is the point of it anyway? Like there can also be some really defensive answers when you ask about documentation. So, just stay strong, manage your gravitas through that.
Right. And if you don't have one that's updated, this is a good opportunity to sit down and say, all right, well, let's start it, or let's go through what you've got and let's update it. And this is where one of the dimensions of a RAID log you can add can be very, very valuable. And it's not RAID as in D as in decisions, but sometimes D can be dependencies. And sometimes this can be a major cause of the problem or difficulty. It's dependencies or expectations between teams, between customer and supplier, or between stakeholders, as you mentioned earlier. And if sometimes just the very fact of sitting down and writing down what those dependencies are or expectations between different parties, that in one instance, I had to go and remediate a project. That was almost the entire remediation, as there was no understanding of what each of the parties were expecting. And we sat down in 2 days and had it all mapped out, and the project was already starting to come out of the crater.
The short version of that scenario is, but I thought you were going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Yeah. Woof.
All right. And then another thing you should be asking for, really all the rest of the key documents in your portfolio. What's the scope? Show me the plan, show me the schedule, all the rest of the key project documents. You're absolutely within your rights to request all that, and it should be available and on hand. And anything where there's a hesitation or they say, well, I don't know if we really have that, or it's not updated, that's when your red light should be going off. And that's something you should probably zero in on.
All right. So at this point in your methodology, since you're following this plan, you have asked your first 5 questions, and whether or not there was documentation to support that, you're beginning to clarify the answers to those questions. You are removing as many assumptions as you can from your brain and your understanding about how the project works and trying to get that written down into documentation. And then you're finding existing documentation and seeing if what you have discovered compares at all and looks similar at all to what you found, right? And then you do, like, at this point, you're connecting the dots, right? You know, it's one of the problems we talked about before. It's definitely based in ambiguity somewhere, and it's time to deliver, like to put some output from yourself into this project to try and start to right the ship. And I believe this next part is more for you to prepare to deliver your plan. And this is echoing on something Kim talked about earlier, which is don't throw the enemy team under the bus. We use enemy team today. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does. In every job, everywhere. Like, you know, if you work for the government makes mistakes. The private sectors know better. Like, money gets wasted all the time in every company I've ever worked at, regardless of maturity. It just happens. So people make mistakes. It happens. And there can be dozens of reasons why a project may be struggling, but there is always this rule to follow whenever you are brought in. Don't throw them under the bus. Don't throw the leadership under the bus. Don't throw the project team under the bus. Everybody knows that someone messed up. Everybody knows. Nobody is sitting here like everything was perfect until this morning. Like, nobody thinks that, right? It's been weird for a while. They're bringing in new leadership. Everybody knows something's messed up. So don't dig a hole for yourself, and like focus on using some tools to make you look good in neutral in this new role where you're coming in to bring a lot of change.
Yeah, don't throw other people under the bus to make yourself look better, because, you know, honestly, you never know if someday your roles are going to be reversed. I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. So, you know, hopefully not. But someday it could be you that made a really bad decision, made a mistake, let something slip, whatever happens, and that somebody else is coming in to take your project, and you don't want them to throw you under the bus.
Yeah. Demonstrate that behavior to aspire to. So some ways you can do that. Use the passive voice, right? If you're not familiar with passive voice, that's like, instead of saying Kim messed everything up and the dinner burned, we say the dinner was burned. We leave out the actor. Like, there's no actor there, right? So in active voice, we choose a person who does an action. So Kim burned the dinner. In passive voice, the dinner, which is a noun that exists, was burned. An action happened to it. So the server crashed, the release was delayed, the shipment was not received according to standard procedures. There's a reason why everybody uses passive voice when things get messed up. You just don't want to blame anybody. It's a common thing to do.
All the English teachers in our audience are now just, their skin is crawling and they're banging on their podcast listening device saying, no passive voice. But it's true. It's in this case, it is. And I have my English writing ability is terrible now because I've spent so many years in passive voice.
I get it. And I think it's also really great to talk about any wins if you can. Some classic sentences are the team started really strong, and you can highlight that maybe the original documentation was really good if you're talking about how it was not maintained, and that's how we got to this area of confusion we're in right now. You can say, we had a clear scope. There's good documentation at the beginning of the project, or, if there's nothing really good that this team has done and it's just a mess, you can always fall back to the team has a lot of passion and enthusiasm, and I'm excited to work with them. You can always just compliment your coworkers. And like that's a legitimate way that I have felt before. Like, well, this is just a mess, but these people seem awesome. So here we go. The team seems eager to change their ways. The team seems really open to feedback. You can always start by, I just want to, as you're introducing your plans, like, I just want to take a moment to talk about some of the successes I saw, say nice things, and then transition into the problems.
But, and this is really a clever use of language. The way we describe bad things is in a passive voice. The server crashed. We talk it's all passive voice. But when we talk about the positive things, you put it more into an active voice, and it communicates differently. It's more concrete. And so I think the ear and the mind sort of follow those things a little bit better than they do on the passive voice.
Yeah. So I have some leaders that use the word unfortunately when they transition to bad news. You choose your own adventure for your world. Unfortunately, transition to passive voice, right? The documentation has not been maintained. The stakeholders haven't been corresponded with in 3 weeks, whatever it is, right? Some things came along that were outside our core skill set, or an issue was raised, but the consequences were not well understood. Passive voice.
You're a gold mine of those things.
How much bad news do you think I've delivered in my life? I am so good at fixing problems. And if anybody needs how do I give bad news? What sentence should I say? If you're a member, I'm here for you. Email me, kate@pmhappyhour.com, and I will walk you through it step by step.
Absolutely. So now we've done that. We want to try and get the current state clarified and agreed and get a tactical plan in place. And a technique we've talked about on this podcast is something called trust bricks. And I love this concept so much that I made up. I will trademark it. In fact, I may write a self-help book on using trust bricks.
Perfection.
Yes. But you build trust bricks. And the whole idea there is you solve a problem, however small, and you put something in there. And it's a matter of establishing trust. So you just whatever commitments you make, however small, you say you make the commitment and you deliver it every time after time after time, even actually, especially the small things, even as I'm going to get you meeting minutes, I'm going to get you a link, I'm going to find that out and get back to you within an hour. When you keep setting that expectation, there's sort of an expectation that you are going to do what you say on the big things because you always seem to deliver on the small things. And the idea that you wouldn't deliver on something, it starts to become a matter of cognitive dissonance because everything they know of you, you have done everything you said that you would do. So it's a great way to establish trust and to start moving things forward, however slow.
Totally. I think another great tool there that just piggybacks off exactly what you said is to create an achievable plan for a plan. If things are really messy and you don't even know what your resources should be working on right now, then you are creating a plan for a plan. You are looking to understand what your real priorities are. You're trying to adjust, what the business wanted out of the project. And they may or may not have sent you in with a massive scope change, right? They may say, we spent $1 million on this. I don't care. I want to get this piece of functionality out if it costs me another $1 million, or you get that piece of functionality out immediately. I've spent $1 million. It should be here by now, right? That's a way they can think about that. So as part of establishing those trust bricks, create that plan for a plan. I will deliver an understanding of the root cause by the end of this week. I'll deliver tactical next steps Monday. I will deliver, and those steps will include, the plan for the week or whatever it is, right? If you don't know what to do because it's such a mess, set that expectation and then shift your commitments to little things you can definitely achieve.
Right. And certainly make sure you avoid the opposite of that, which is overcommitting.
Yes.
And you will be so tempted to do that. I will fix your problems. We will right the ship. We will get everything back on track, and I'm going to give you a big hug and pat you on the back. Just don't commit to anything unless you are absolutely sure you will deliver that. and give yourself a lot of buffer. If you think you can do it in 2 days, give yourself 3 days.
If they come at you like, well, can you do it by Friday? For whatever it is, right? Whether like, can you fix the project? Can you give me this thing? And you don't know if you can always say, here's what I know I can do, and I will deliver that at this time. So if it's half the amount of what they want you to do and you deliver it and you say you can get it done on Thursday, then commit to that. Don't overcommit. Don't overcommit.
I like that's a good way to answer. Here's what I know I can do.
Yeah. Can you do this by Friday? Here's what I know we can do. We can deliver, 2/3 of what you'd asked for on Thursday, and we'll check in on the remaining third at that time.
I would believe you.
Exactly. And the other thing that helps with that is if they say that's not good enough, you can ask like, what's driving that? Is there a meeting I don't know about or a deadline I'm not aware of? I know it's a question that we've talked about before, but those are helpful things to bring up because I'm like a queen princess. And so I would be like, get it done by Friday. When they say, well, I can only get you 2/3, I'll be like, listen, this is what's happening on Friday. This is the type of information that I need. Can you get me this information on Friday? And then you can start a negotiation about the desired outcome as opposed to whatever thing the person is asking for. Queen princess for Friday.
Yes. And at this stage, this is when you really start to flesh out your raid log, your tactical action list, and really do a good job with your task management. It's a basic fundamental PM skill. Get your tasks down, make sure everybody can see them and access them. Make sure you've got names, you've got dates, you've got it clear what everybody's doing when, you've confirmed that all with everybody at the same time. Just really clear, concise, and crisp task management.
And it doesn't hurt if you're in like a real crisis situation to recap those things. Maybe not the entire list because, the audience matters, but to recap those things to your leadership who asked you to come in and fix it. It can be helpful to say, hey, just want to give you a quick check-in on what we've done so far. I have received X number of deliverables. I am reviewing this. It's in progress as ETA, right? So that you're letting them know, like, review in progress, like I am entrenched in the situation. That can be helpful. And then the last thing I would say is plant the seed. A coworker of mine likes that phrase, and I agree with it. If there's one thing about leadership that I have learned, it's that it's got to be their idea in like a lot of ways. And it takes time, especially if somebody, regardless of what level of, if they're a peer beneath you, above you, like it takes time to let go of what an idea was and accept a new way an idea can be. And so you need to plant the seed for anything big that you see that might need to change kind of as soon as you can. But planting the seed is not screaming about it. Planting the seed is planting the idea that maybe we're not clear on why we started this project, right? I got some interesting numbers back from our tech team, and it's clear to me we want to work on reducing costs of, our operating overhead. And we're running the numbers here, and I might be missing something, but I don't know if I'm seeing the realized value from this that you were expecting. What do you think, right? You're not saying, F this project, no thank you, cancel it. You're saying, what an odd discovery I've made. Well, what's your opinion? Right? Yes. It's a little bit of stupid executive asks, but it is like you're presenting the data and saying, what do you think about that? Like, I'm a reasonable person. I'm coming to this conclusion. Do you have information I don't know about? So if you start to see anything really glaring, like somebody's screaming in ones and someone else is screaming in zeros, maybe just point that out and see if anybody has any feedback on it, because that can also help you continue to find the root of the problem in the project.
Yeah, you can walk them to the door, but you let them open it up. Like, hey, I've reviewed all the documentation, and it's not clear to me that we really have clear sign-off requirements. Well, what are your thoughts on that? What are your expectations here?
And any executive that doesn't know what that is, be like, it sounds like we need them.
Oh, but then what would you recommend?
I think it would be great if we had, I'll spend the next 2 days getting some very clear requirements together, and then I'll put a meeting on your calendar for Wednesday for us to review those so you can understand what it is we're all agreeing to.
Great, because I feel like if the team had that, they would have a greater chance of being successful. So I think we'd look forward to that. That's a great step.
Exactly. So that can be helpful in the beginning before you have to be really brutally honest.
Speaking of which, when it comes time to start changing the course, there's a few tips we'd have on there. So first of all, be really honest, maybe over honest. Use your don't/do statements. I don't want this, but I do want this to happen. Passive voice about problems and highlight how you need to shift that direction.
If gentle touch hasn't worked, and it doesn't for some people, then put up the data about the problem and call it out, right? We've spent 500 hours trying to achieve this particular piece of functionality. We can continue to try to do that, but it's, bleeding edge in this field. And we cannot guarantee you how many more hours it will cost you to get this. How much money would you like to spend on us doing this? Like, how do you want to handle this? This, $1 million has been lost. Is it worth it to continue for another $1 million worth of hours? If it is, we will gladly continue.
And here's where you can start to leverage that trust that you've built with your trust bricks, solving some small problems, and they can just gradually increase in more importance to the problems you're solving as you start to build some momentum.
Yeah, because you're presenting, we've wasted $1 million. And they're like, Kate would never lie to me. It must be $1 million. And depending on your situation, that may shift, but without that trust you've established, it will be a much rockier conversation. They'll try to undermine you the moment you open your mouth.
Yep.
And another tip, stay strong in pushing for your change. Something that can happen is that you can say a sentence and then people don't respond in, half a second, like literal time, half a second. And you start to just spill to like justify. And that only makes you look less of an expert. I know I've talked about this with some of my comms course attendees. So do not fear the pause that comes after stating something that needs to happen that will take people some time to digest and respond to. So you say a sentence like, we spent a lot of time on root cause analysis, and we've determined that ambiguous success criteria continue to push out the project timeline and the customer won't sign off. We must create measurable, specific criteria in order to close this project without additional loss. If I was to justify that, I would sound like, because actually studies show that they're the best thing to have and we should follow best practice. And I read about it in Fast Company. Like you're not going to sound good. Like, what needs to be done. You need success criteria. Just say it and wait for them to be like, what's a success criteria? And be like, I'm so glad you asked. I've never said this to you before and I would love to say it for the 500th time.
Yeah, and it's just so true. Just if you can succinctly state your point, that's all you have to do if you know your stuff. The more you try to justify it, qualify it, the weaker it sounds when it comes out of your mouth. Now, sometimes that suggestion can be a radical change. It can even be as far as canceling the project altogether. Now, this is where your critical thought as a project manager really need to put it out there. And you need to probably be the one to have that frank conversation with the sponsor and the stakeholders to say, look, you want this project to do this thing and you don't have the money, the resources, or the willpower to make it happen. So you should seriously consider just kill this project and focus on these other things because you have a small chance of success. And if you don't say that, probably nobody else is going to say that.
Yeah. Who is going to say that, right? Who's going to say that?
Yes. And so there you go. That's all you have to do.
All you have to do. So easy.
Well, now all the hard work starts, but once you can get through those phases and start to change the course and move ahead, if moving ahead is the right thing to do, then, from there, it's just basic, hard project management work.
Yeah. Now you've basically started a new project, right? Because you've done your first 5. You came in with like a little bit of a weirder scenario because there was already work done on it, but there is investment, right? Because you've been brought in. So you have engaged stakeholders, hopefully. Typically, there's engaged stakeholders in a project they're mad at, or they're just like, go fix it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. That's the less fortunate scenario. But if it's $1 million that's been lost, usually someone's engaged. So leverage that to right this course on a strong ship towards victory.
Absolutely.
Defeat your enemies.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women. All right. Let's do some takeaways.
I love it.
First, this is me, right? Everybody's got their own thing that they like to do, the way they model themselves and get their focus. I like to imagine, what would the wolf say?
Welcome back to 2025. I loved listening to this. Tell me about your takeaways, Kim.
Lots of sugar, lots of cream. It was great. It was fun revisiting this because I took a lot of cues from you. I loved the way that you revisited one of our other favorite episodes.
how to respond to stupid executive asks.
Yes.
And my original complicated 5-part formula.
Yeah, well, it was the 5-part formula was good. Is very helpful, but you took it to the next level and you boiled it down to a 3-part formula.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really brilliant. And I thought maybe I can try and do that. And I don't think mine is quite as slick as yours, but I think it's all right.
I disagree. I think it's great. So you sat with it. How did you boil it down? What is the new formula for it to be the wolf?
Well, I think there's three main aspects to keep in mind when being the wolf and going into these really tough situations. And it's calm, clarity, and courage. And these are the 3 things we want to try to embody as the leader or someone coming in to help with a broken project.
I love this. I'm most excited for clarity because I talked so much about ambiguity. I talked a lot about ambiguity, but do start us with calm.
Well, of course, that's where we need to start from. We need to start from a place where we are calm internally, and we're projecting that because calm, as we talked about, calm is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk into a tough situation, emotions are already high. There's already a lot of chaos, confusion, misalignment, and you need to be the voice of calm in the storm. That's one of your primary jobs as the wolf. And as part of this, we also need to understand that we cannot control others. The only thing we can control in the situation is ourselves. And so we start with ourselves, stay focused, stay calm. And if we can't keep ourselves calm, we can't get the project to a calm state either. So that's where we have to start.
Yeah. And I like your other note too on part of being calm is to be engaged, but professionally detached, which I feel like sometimes when a project is crashing out, we feel like as project managers, if I don't save it, if I'm not the hero, if I don't give everything for this, but when you feel that way and it seeps into your bones, your energy becomes very unstable because your whole worth, your whole good boy, attaboy that you're seeking, it reeks of insecurity. That's the worst thing. The ironic thing is that the more that you feel like this project defines you, the more you reek of insecurity. The more that you believe that this project is something that you're here to fix and just to work through pragmatically, the more calm you emanate.
I might be able to paraphrase this.
I'm ready.
You are not the project's main character.
Cam, it's so good. It's so good, Cam.
It's true. We go in, whether it's our own project we've always had and we're trying to save, or we go in as the wolf into a new project, we can't make ourselves the main character. We're there to help. We're there to be the doctor, to help the patient, diagnose and help treat them. Ultimately, we are not the main character. This is not our project. We're here to help.
I love that. That's excellent. The next C. Give us the next C.
The next C is clarity. And you really talked really well about looking for ambiguity and seeking that out, as that is very often the source of challenges. But I think over the last few years, as we have both grown and developed and spoken with a lot of brilliant people in the industry, for me, that definition maybe shifts or maybe is expanded a little bit to not just ambiguity, but misalignment between parties. And so ambiguity certainly plays a part of that, and that ambiguity drives misalignment. But I feel like a lot of it can be categorized as misalignment. And so a lot of the great tips and tricks that we've learned ourselves and had our guest, especially Tim Creasy, speak to are the kinds of things that can help us through this. And we want to be absolutely relentless in seeking out misalignment and being fearless for exposing it.
Ooh, that is a really good point. I tend to take one word and sort of umbrella it over a situation. I do think that misalignment is an improved way to talk about it. I still think the root cause of misalignment tends to be ambiguity. I've just seen it too many times in my career to not let that one go. But I do think that as you clarify, your goal is alignment. So as you get to clarity, as you relentlessly chase clarity, the goal of that clarity is alignment. So in some ways, two sides of the same coin, but I think that's an excellent thing to bring up. I know I went through an example where I talked about like a cultural difference between Japan and America, and like what a locker would mean to somebody, like to a Japanese person used to taking off their shoes in Japan and putting them in a locker for just for shoes, versus like an American who, like in the schools that I grew up in, my locker would have been for my books. I would never have put shoes in a locker except for gym. And that would be a misalignment on what we would have expected out of that word or phrase. And that makes sense. Chasing that clarity is in service of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. And clarity has a couple categories. We want to get clarity on what is the current situation, where are things broken. And we also have to seek clarity in the truth of what is still possible within the budget and the schedule and things we have right now. And what is realistic for us to achieve with what we have, and what would it realistically take for us to get there to that original goal from where we are at this point. So there are a lot of places where we have to take a cold, hard look at the reality of things. And it is very challenging to be able to do that, but we've got to be able to find that clarity and expose that.
In order to be able to bring up something bravely, is there another C that you say we would need to have those tough conversations?
That's exactly right. That's the last C, which is courage. And I think the root of this concept is that you have to change the project or the project will not change.
Ooh, that's another good one.
So many mic drops in this episode. The thing of it is that very often, if you're the wolf, you're being sent in to say, hey, this project is broken or it's behind. I need you to go in and fix it. And by fix it, often people mean go in and make things right, but don't actually change anything and don't make me make hard decisions. Just go in and make it start working. And it doesn't happen that way.
One of the experiences that Kim and I share over these past couple of years is that both of us have become executives. We've both been executives and stakeholders over these past 6 years. I have this new nuanced appreciation for stakeholders and things that I think they do that are stupid, which I also do that are stupid, to be fair. Justice for stupid executives, I am also one. But the idea that as an outside project manager, you can say, why don't they want to change this thing? They brought me in to fix it. But fixing it will also kind of suck. It will also suck to fix something. You have to make a bunch of decisions in a short amount of time. That can create decision fatigue. You have to give up potentially goals or opportunities that you thought that you were going to be able to achieve through this project. The project might not look like how you thought it would in the beginning. And all of those things are hard for people to deal with. My favorite example recently from a Lindsay Ellis video was her talking about the best way to handle toddlers. And, we've all been raised different ways. There are plenty of parents who would be like, you stop talking, and, maybe they use violence or things like that. But she compared it to like, let's pretend that you went and stood in line for a long time at Disneyland to get on the Rise of the Resistance ride. You even paid $28 like a sucker. And whenever you are next in line, the ride breaks down and you can't get on the ride. Now, the people who work at Disneyland are maybe entitled to be able to say, you shut up and I'm not going to deal with your energy right now. But what they tend to do is to validate your feelings, which is to say, I'm really sorry that you can't go on this ride. It sucks that you can't go on this ride. But they maintain that you cannot get on the ride. And I think that the executive is sort of the ride attendee at that point in time. Like, but I want it and I don't want to change my plan. I want to get a Rise of Resistance. And you have to come in because it's right. I'm just going to stand here until they let me on the ride. Like sometimes that's the executive. I'm just going to stand here until they let me on the ride. And you have to gently be like, yeah, it's really hard that we worked a long time and stood in a line for 2.5 hours and we're not going to get the Rise of the Resistance ride. I love it. We brought it back to Star Wars. It's doing very well. So I just really, really like this new perspective that I have on how people are, because people don't want to change and you have to be the brave one to hold their hand.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think we referenced in this episode, but I think it's important for us to call out is that this is a people first exercise. Mm-hmm. You're not going in to fix a broken project plan or a broken Gantt chart or a broken budget. You are fixing a broken project team or a broken organization. And that's really the core of it. So we don't want to get tangled up in the technical details of it. We need to focus on the people.
Yeah. And I think to your first point on staying calm, when people are going through a change like that, giving up something that they thought they were going to get or accepting how badly something has gone, they need somebody who's calm and confident right there with them, creating an environment for them to feel safe in the change. And that is what makes the wolf so uniquely suited to go rescue projects.
The key word, someone to make them feel safe. That is a great way to say that, because that's exactly what it is. They want to know that someone is getting this thing under control and is making them feel safe. Well said. Well said.
My other favorite, almost Kim-ism that comes up in this episode is how often you're like, should we kill this project? We should kill this project. Kim loves murdering a project. So talk to me a little bit about being the wolf and saying, this thing can't happen anymore. We gotta axe it.
I think it's an important question to ask, if for no other reason than to see if there's still organizational will to make this thing live.
Ooh.
Because a lot of times projects are in trouble because their sponsors are not actively supporting them. The stakeholders are not actively engaged. Not always, but very often that can be the case. And if you start raising the question to the people who are supposed to be benefiting from this project, to the people who are supposed to be sponsoring and making this project happen, if you start asking the question, should we just kill this project and make it go away? If they don't stand up and say, no, I want to do it, then why would you keep doing it? It's time to put it down and stop doing that and stop burning money and pain and attention on this project and shift effort to something where it can be better spent.
Absolutely. Well said. I've definitely had the conversation of, we've already spent this much money. Here is the projected timeline to get this done. It's going to take another big chunk of investment. Is this still worth it? And you're coming in with a real disengaged, curious affect there. Like, looks like a lot. Should we keep going?
It is. And it really sets some of the personal dynamics to say, I'm not the one with the stake in this. Of course, you are vested as you're engaged as a project leader, consultant, but really it's not you that has to be the one advocating so strongly for this project. It really puts it back onto the people who really should be, which are the sponsor and the stakeholders, and puts them on notice to say, if you really want this to happen, you need to get engaged and you need to support it. And that's a good opportunity when you start saying, well, let's cut this project. And they say, no, we have to do it. And you can say, well, we can do it, but here's what that might look like. You're going to have to give me more time, more budget, we'll have less scope. Or you can talk to them about all the different changes that may have to take place in that project for it to proceed, because it has to change. And this is the opportunity for you to fit that in. When they start saying, no, please, let us have this project. We have to have it. No, it's got to happen. Okay, then you've got to do these things.
Then you got to do it. You got to do it. All right. So the 3 C's to be the wolf are
calm, clarity, and courage. And so if you want to be the wolf, or if you find that you have to be the wolf, I think we've got something that can help you, don't we, Kate?
We do. We've collected over 40 of our field-tested scripts and put them in one place for you. If you want to sound like Kate and Kim in your next high-stakes meeting and use our exact words and phrases that we've suggested to you on this podcast many times over the course of 8 years, you can go to pmhappyhour.com/scripts and you can grab a download of our proven field-tested scripts to help you never freeze in a meeting again. I'm very proud of this. They are broken out into different scenarios that you would run into as a project manager in your meetings. These include implementing change management, dealing with emotional team members, managing scope creep when an executive asks for a stupid thing, clarifying what problem you're actually solving, and more. There's over 40, there might be 60 different scripts in here for every scenario. Get yours at pmhappyhour.com/scripts.
And one of my favorite quotables is, cheers, Kate.
Cheers, Kim.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you liked our show, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes or wherever you get our podcast. Your review really does mean a lot. And if you want to check out our membership site and all of our cool content there, you can check that out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. If you want to talk to us directly about project management, PM consulting, training, or whatever, our contact info is on our website under About Your Hosts, or you can just hit us up on our Facebook site at PM Happy Hour. You'll find we're really pretty easy to get a hold of there. And that's it for today. Good luck with your projects, and we hope to catch you again at the next PM Happy Hour. Cheers.